You're watching A Woman Means Business, and I'm your host, Nontobeko Gumede, bringing you captains of industry that continue to push boundaries in the world of business. This week, we step into the zone of South Africa's space economy. That's right, space economy, getting insights into the ecosystem, infrastructure, and investment opportunities that exist with my expert guest and CEO of Space Diamond Space Resources, Thongwane Namane. Thongwane, thank you very much for joining us. This is unfamiliar territory for us here, and looking at your experience, you have been working and providing financial risk advisory to companies, banks, and governments for over a decade now. Can you just share your journey and how you came into this sector of the space industry?
And thank you so much, Nontobeko, and thank you so much for having me on the platform. Well, the journey starts when I was quite young. My father used to love watching documentaries with David Attenborough as well as Neil deGrasse Tyson on the Discovery Channel about planets, black holes, and the galaxy. And when I was growing up, I wanted to be an astrophysicist. But, you know, coming from where I'm from, which is a greater part of Johannesburg, that wasn't really something that you pursued. So I moved into law and economics and found myself in financial services. Fortunately, I was at a company that was researching the private space economy and commercialization, and we actually built up a portfolio to invest in a satellite engineering company based in South Africa, and I took that opportunity to then make the transition into the space industry.
Can you just share more detail in terms of South Africa's space industry within itself? What are the investment opportunities that exist?
South African space industry has truly benefited from the investment from the South African government spanning more than 35 years. In fact, a little known fact is that we were part of the United Nations Office of Space Affairs Outer Space Treaty. We had a program since 1958. And though we had to denuclearize in the 1990s, our government still invested in that. So out of that spawned quite a few companies, mainly based in the Western Cape, but in Gauteng as well, namely the Space Commercial Services Aerospace Group, in which I do serve as a director on, and developing the supply chain quite effectively. So we look at companies that sell space components, we have companies that have launched satellites and are able to obtain satellite data, as well as companies that are dealing with what we call as downstream applications. So that's taking data that is developed through space infrastructure and actually using that for benefit on Earth. So things like critical infrastructure, the ability in terms of agricultural uses to be able to increase crop yields, and we're looking at definitely developing that sector even more. So the investments capability that's here or available is to invest in these companies, which in fact have global impact. There are components, more than 2,000 components from our various space companies that are flying right now in space on satellites, spacecraft, and buses. And more excitingly, I could even say some lunar spacecraft as well, so literally on the moon. So investment opportunities are definitely available for private sector companies and finance companies to be able to invest and really gain some real benefit from this capability.
Honestly, significant milestones that you've reached, Thongwane, and just looking at the company itself, Space Diamond Space Resources, because obviously you found the growth opportunities that do exist within this sector. Can you just share more in terms of what services do you provide within your own company?
Right, so Space Diamond Space Resources was born out of a meeting that was organized by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation at looking at African perspectives around mining in space. We then partnered with Space Commercial Services, or SES Space, to be able to develop the commercial business case for space resources coming out of Africa for regional capability as well as globally. First in low Earth orbit, in geostationary orbit, in cislunar space, which is the space between Earth and the Moon, as well as the lunar economy and extensively the Martian economy. What space resources is the capability to extract resources from resource-poor environments like you would find in the Martian environment and be able to develop infrastructure as well as systems that are required for living in space. So where we are at the moment is developing those capabilities by our main focus being to actually invest in companies that have those technologies and are looking at extracting resources from space. Another aspect to have a look at in terms of what we're developing is technologies around actual mining. So this is quite exciting when we speak about asteroids or those type of celestial bodies, which is what we term celestial bodies, which aren't planets, and the mineral riches that they actually hold. So rare platinum minerals, gases that are available there, like helium-3, which is currently going for about $20 million per kg. So that makes the investment case quite substantial for one to develop the spacecraft, develop the technologies, which we believe in South Africa is a core skill and capability. I mean, we've been mining for over 2 centuries. Yes. And eventually be able to launch our own missions where we go when we do prospecting for the capability to bring these resources back to Earth.
Thongwane, there's so much that we need to explore, whether it be skills development, how you are also helping bring in the youth to be more active within this space as well. Can you just briefly share some of the platforms that our audiences, especially young women that are looking into coming into this sector specifically, what doors can they knock into?
Well, we're really passionate about youth and women being given access and particularly pathways to science, to engineering, to technology in the space sector. And one of our focal points is strategically targeting industries to be able to create non-traditional pathways to space. So besides studying mathematics and science, which is absolutely critical, and no one should be given a choice not to look at that because it is a language around understanding that, but it is around creating inclusive programs and diverse programs which do push the agenda around youth inclusivity, around gender equity, and you'll find that opportunities are available with the South African government and with private sector companies, as well as various programs that are actually developed for one to develop these capabilities. So we're really passionate about that. From SES's side, the ability to take on groups of interns, which we did last year, they ranged from mechanical engineering to biochemical engineering. Students come in and actually have hands-on experience. So those type of programs are programs that people should look out for, and I would say more than anything is to start planning all the way from school age, targeting those industries, knowing what you need to study, because right now at the moment in terms of developing spaceflight programs or opportunities for young people in Africa to work on such things, we actually have to develop that because it's not currently available. Like if someone wants to become an astronaut, for example, or wants to become a space miner, for example, but working together with organizations like us, with companies like us in the private sector, as well as international organizations like the International Aeronautical Federation, which I sit on a committee in terms of developing access for Africa. Young people and people who are interested in this industry can definitely take non-traditional pathways to space.
Well, that's where we will leave it. Thank you very much for joining us, Thongwane. That was the CEO and founder of Space Diamonds Space Resources, Thongwane Namane, giving insight into South Africa's space economy and how it possesses the potential to become a significant player in the global space economy. Until next time, goodbye.